Hi everyone and welcome to AWS Julie. For today's video, we're continuing with our new series on needed AWS fundamentals to ensure you pass your AWS certification exams. Let's dive into the fundamentals of AWS CloudTrail. For this lesson, I want to do a high-level overview of CloudTrail, and we will be diving deeper into the fundamentals of CloudTrail in later lessons. But for this fundamental series, I wanted to first add fundamentals for the AWS core services. In this lesson, we will cover a high-level overview of CloudTrail, and we will again be diving deeper as we complete this series. So what is CloudTrail? Well, it is an AWS service that logs all API actions in your account. For example, if we create or delete an S3 bucket, that is logged. If we stop or start our EC2 instance, that is logged. And if we add a new rule to our security group, that is logged too. Almost everything you do in your AWS account is logged by CloudTrail. So all activity in your AWS account is logged by CloudTrail as a CloudTrail event. A CloudTrail event is an AWS activity taken in your account, and the actions can be taken by me, by you, by another user, a role, or another service. And by default, CloudTrail stores the last 90 days of events in the event history. This is enabled by default in your AWS account, and there is no cost for storing 90 days of event history. There are two types of events that CloudTrail logs: management events and data events. By default, CloudTrail only logs management events, but you can choose to start logging data events in CloudTrail, but there is an additional cost to log data events. So let's jump into the AWS Management Console. If we go up to Services, under Management and Governance, we can jump into CloudTrail. And you'll see on the CloudTrail console, we can see our recent event history here in the left navigation, and we can see all of the events. And if we look through the event history, you will see the different events that CloudTrail logs. So we have logins, we have switch roles, we also see policy attachments, and if we click on any of the events, we are given more details. Another feature of CloudTrail is that you can create custom CloudTrail events to log by creating a CloudTrail trail. And by creating a CloudTrail trail, we are configuring and letting CloudTrail know what we want to log. So a single region trail logs for the AWS region it was created in, but we can choose all regions for our CloudTrail when we're configuring the trail. And when we do this, CloudTrail becomes a global service. Also, if AWS adds additional regions later on after your CloudTrail trail was configured, then that new region is automatically added to your CloudTrail trail. This global service feature is enabled by default, so CloudTrail collects management events, and we can also enable data events. And you can set up an S3 bucket to store your CloudTrail trail logs. That gives you the ability to store more than 90 days of event history. And to tie in our last lesson, you can also store your logs in CloudWatch Logs too. And with AWS organizations, you can create an organizational trail from your AWS organization main account. And when you create this, CloudTrail then logs all events for the organization inside that organization CloudTrail trail. So for the exam, remember that CloudTrail does not log in real time. There is a delay, and based on the exam guide, you might have a question around that. CloudTrail is enabled by default in your AWS account, and by default only stores management events. You can create a CloudTrail trail and also store that data in Amazon S3 and CloudWatch Logs. Most AWS services log CloudTrail data to that same region that they're in, but there are global services like IAM and CloudFront that log their global service events to the U.S. East Northern Virginia region. And finally, you must enable your CloudTrail trail to also log that data as well. If you found this content useful, a like and a subscribe would mean a lot to me. It really helps me know what y'all like, and it gives me an indicator that I'm building useful content. Now in the next lesson, we will cover another core AWS service, and that is AWS CloudFormation. Thanks so much for watching.